Hello, YouTube Nation. This is Lord Nitro 101 coming back at you with a new build, Hell's Bells. I've been playing this for the last couple seasons. I think it's one of the more simplistic builds to put together, especially if you do start out with the Sun Wuku set at the very beginning of the season. All right, let me fire into the game here, and we'll get the build, and I'll explain it in detail. All right, so here we are in the game. Um, Okay, so basically how this build works, it is a bells build. Um, it makes it really, really easy to play. There's not any problems, no conflicts, no issues. But most of these pieces are best in slot. There's only one variation that you can actually do, and that's changing out the weapons. Okay, so primarily this is a bells build. I'll go over the build first, and then I'll go after the gear. Okay, so primarily because it's bells build based, though I've tested different ways, I still think fire does the best damage output. Um, you can try the lightning, but it's kind of weird to try to get it to really focus the way it needs to focus. All right, so first one you want to do is wave of light, exploding light, which is the fire damage. 830% as fire damage to nearby enemies. Uh, Though I've tested different ones, it seems like this one is still the best. The one that is fire based is actually not as prominent and is not a good enough sort of damage dealer. So you go sweeping wind, inner storm, empathy, desert shroud. The one variable that you can change here is for the dashing straight. I use way of the falling star just for the movement speed. But you can do um, blinding speed. If you want more of a dodge, you can use the radiance if you want more damage. So these can be played around with depending on whether or not you're doing greater rifts or you're just doing speed rifts or you're doing bounties. You want to move a little bit quicker around the map. Um, One of the ones that you could change here, but I find this is probably the best, especially if you're starting out, which is Mystic Ally, Air Ally, which is the one that actually helps you gain extra spirit because of the two Mystic Allies you have out. Mantra, Salvation, Agility is pretty well our go-to one. You could add a little bit more damage, but it tends to, if you're going to switch those, you're better off going to like a hybrid build of, the Legacy at Nightmare one. So agility basically is, the one that we use for dodge a lot. Okay. These can change a little bit for your passives, but these are the standard ones that I use. Harmony, which is our all resist. Exalted Soul is for us our ability to regen spirit because this is, you will burn through a lot of spirit really quickly. Beacon of Yetar is one of our go-to skills. It just reduces our cooldowns. And the reason here this is the one variable that you can change is because Unity, I'm using it for an extra damage boost because I have the two Mystic Allies out. So they will actually increase my damage a little bit. But if you find that your damage is okay, then you can actually go to two of the ones you can use is momentum because you're actually, you're dashing around the map really fast, so it will increase your damage. I've seen some people play with relentless assault because you can sort of, you know, stun and blind them depending on how you hit them. Um, some people have actually used determination, but for this particular build, I'll just keep it standard. So, those are the passives that you can play around with as well. And if you're playing this build on hardcore, then you would obviously go with near-death experience there, just for your ability to stay alive better. Okay, let's go over the gear quickly. I'll try to make this video not as long as I've made my other ones. All right, so primarily you need the Sungwuku set because that's how um, this build now takes into account the changes they had made several patches back. Before this set was actually when it consumed our sort of clone that the Sungwuku set put out, it was only 1,500% damage increase. Now it's 3,000. for stacking the sweeping winds, it was 500%. Now it's 1,000. So it's a pretty good build. Okay, so primarily, these are sort of the best in slot pieces. As you're putting the build together, you can change around a little bit until you get all the right pieces. Okay, so basically you want the Sanwoku shoulders. These aren't the best, but I'm on seasons right now. I haven't really found the ideal pieces. So primarily here you want Dex Bite. On the get the all resist as your secondary. You want a cooldown here and area damage. For the Gaze Helm, they changed this some time ago, but now it actually rolls with the stats that we can actually utilize. So you want to go Dex Bite, uh, crit chance here for sure. In my case, because this was an ancient and I'll rather use the Spirit Regenerator, you ideally want to socket here. So you want to make sure you can either use two of the gems. You can use the Topaz for the resource cost reduction, or you can use the cooldown gem, just depending on how your cooldown is overall. Here it automatically rolls a wave of light damage, which is what we need anyhow. For the amulet, of course, the Sanwoku shines, which is so. But primarily, you want either your Dex roll or a Fire Elemental roll, crit chance, crit damage, a secondary resist. Here, I got very fortunate; it rolled the Hell Globe, so it's kind of handy. The Pinto's Pride is one of these bracers that we gained. God, I would have to say 3 or 4 seasons ago. Basically all it does is it allows us to boost our fire skills damage. So you want fire skills, of course, dex, fight, crit chance, and of course a secondary resist would be good here. And basically, like it says, the wave of light also slows down by 80% for 3 seconds and deals extra damage. So it's just a bonus there. Okay, for the gloves, you can go 2 different ways here. Because I haven't really played around and really rolled more for these. You can go Dex Bite, crit chance, crit damage, a secondary resist, or you can roll off the bite and put a cooldown here, or you can also put attack speed here. It just depends on how your gloves roll. For the Soul Belt, this has been around for a couple of patches now. It's really one of the way, go-to kind of thing for the sweeping wind, because it automatically stacks it. Because if you see down here, it automatically just keeps stacking my 3 here. All right, so primarily here you can go a lot of different directions. Obviously Dex Bite, you can get an armor roll here over the life percent. You can get the regen life, which is what I've rolled. The sweeping wind damage automatically is here, so you don't have to worry about it. It's a natural rolled stat. So that's not a difficult one to get. The Sanwoku pants, these are really primarily what I like in my stats here. Dex Bite, a regen life, and some kind of resist. The light after kill is kind of handy, but if you're finding that you're having survivability issues, you can roll off that regen and put armor on. Okay, and for the chest armor, same thing applies. Dex Bite, you can have Mystic Ally damage here for the regen life. You can have life percent here. Just make sure you get your secondary resist here and you'll have no problems. The boots, of course, one of our go-to things now, especially when they changed this, probably 5 or 6 patches ago, where the Mystic Ally summons 2 of them, which is why if you notice on the screen, I have 2 Mystic Allies out. These primarily, doesn't matter how they really roll. What you want here is a dex, a bite. The movement speed is not necessarily important. You can re-equip that by also using your dashing strike for your movement speed. But most critical here is to get the wave of life damage here and a secondary resist. Okay, so for the 2 rings, the convention of elements, because we want to take advantage of the fire damage output. It's a good boost to damage for us. Primarily here you want a dex, crit chance, crit damage. You could even knock off the dex as you get higher paragon, put a cooldown on here. It would even help you even more. See, the thing here I'm missing here is a secondary resist. Okay, and the other one is your unity. Obviously, if you're doing solo stuff, then you can take advantage of the double unity off of you and your Templar. So if not, make sure that you have another damage ring, crit chance, crit damage. You can go on elemental damage, but Dex is fine, and that way if you're running in a party, then you have another damage ring you can use. Those are the primary things. Okay, this is where the build will change a little bit. I'm using actually the Incense Grand Torch as my primary weapon. The reason why I like this weapon overall, other than the two split weapons, which I'll explain in a moment, I find very early game that you really do need that extra vitality. It just helps out, especially in the beginning. As you get higher paragons, you could deviate to the other two weapons to raise your crit damage, of course. But primarily what you're looking for on this is, your dex, your bite, a percent damage increase, and of course the wave of light damage rolls automatically. This one here rolled really well. I got it. The secondaries rolled an extra spirit for me, and of course this one here rolled extremely well at the perfect 50%. Okay, now the variable here that's for the two weapons is one is the blade and one is the vengeful wind. These are both. I believe we gained the gaze a couple seasons ago. It's basically just increases your wave of light damage for the three or fewer enemies within your certain radius, and it'll increase the damage by a certain percentage. In this case, 233%. Okay, and the vengeful wind, all it really does, and this is sort of the ideal weapon that I find. You can also use the in-jom here if you find you really want to get around the map really fast. Here, primarily all it does is just increase my sweeping wind stacks to 10 because this one actually rolled with 7 on it. So you could actually just spam like crazy if you really want to. For these ones here, ideally, a percent damage. Just make sure you get your socket. Very handy to have the extra spirit here. Ideally, on both these two weapons, you want to roll off your vitality to either get a weapon percent damage or some kind of a boost, a cooldown, a spirit regen, that kind of thing. Same thing on the secondary weapon here. I rolled it with a percent damage and made sure I had my socket on it. I also got the max spirit on here as well. So those two are primarily other weapons. Like I said, the one that's really interchangeable is, of course, the Vengeful Wind. You can put the in-jom in there and just have it play much better. Okay, so now as for the cube stuff, of course, because we're wearing two other pieces, we have to make sure that we get the 6-piece bonus. So, of course, you have to put the Royal Ring in here. The Cinder Coat itself, reason why this is in the cubes because it reduces all fire skills by 30%. So that's really handy because it's a fire-based build. What you can also do here is you could also put the fire damage gloves in here. I do believe I have one in my stash, and I can actually show you. Let's see if I've actually cubed them. Maybe I have. They are actually the Mage Fists. And no, I didn't cube them. Let's see if I can find them really quickly. Where are those funky looking gloves? There they are. The Mage Fist itself, like it says, fire skills deal an extra 20% damage. So as you really get high with your paragons and your gears really well, you could swap these two interchangeable. Okay, and of course for your weapon slot in here, because I'm using the torch as my main hand, you need to put the blade into the cube in order to take advantage of the wave of light damage from a distance. Because we're a bell build, this is a range build, not a close combat build. So you would just take this out, and of course you could put the torch in there so that you could take advantage of the spirit cost reduction for Wave of Light. So you could just bury these two around a little bit. Okay, so basically that's it. I really just wanted to do a quick video on this because I've had some clan members and some people that have watched me streaming, and I played this build for 3 or 4 seasons now that people keep asking me, you know, how's it done? How can you change things around? If you're just starting out with the build, what kind of pieces can you start out with? How can you go from there? That kind of variable. Okay, so basically what I'll do is I'll do a quick 60 just so you guys can see it in actually in combat. And I'll go through this pretty fast. I'll move as quickly as I can through this so you guys can actually see the damage output. It's got a really good range. The only time you really have to use empathy is when you're in danger, like if you're surrounded by elite packs. And because it's a range build, like I said, you can see me dropping bells all over the place. You can take an awful lot of an impact because, of course, we're using our mantras. If you feel like you're in danger, then you can also hit your mantra to bring it up. Just make sure that you keep yourself sort of at a distance. And you can really just blow through this content. I mean, obviously, I'm fairly high Paragon, so I'm making this look a lot easier than it is. But I've started out with this build at a very early stage, especially in the very beginning of the season. If we start out with the Sun Wuku set, it's a fairly easy build to play. You don't really have to focus on it much. I don't have any problems playing it. I can play it in a group. I've carried people through 50s and 60s when I'm the only damage output. So it's pretty easy. You run around, you just bomb from a distance. That's kind of why I called it the Hell's Bells build. You bomb around, you just kill everything you can. And like I said, okay, see there, I died. I should have actually hit my empathy to actually protect myself. Just goes to show you, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're always going to get killed by something in here. It's just the way it works, I guess. I've also got a really hard mob type to actually do this video on, but I just wanted to show you guys the gameplay so you guys can actually see, yes, the build works, yes, there's no problems. I mean, obviously you'd want to start out, you know, with a much lower level until you have all your gear. But I generally, about the only thing I find that I have only problems with is it's normally getting the torch, especially if just because it's a two-handed weapon, and they don't seem to drop for us as commonly as you would think they would for us. But basically, it's a very simplistic build to play. I've taught a lot of people how to play it. You get it down pretty packed. You know, see, like I said, I just backed up there, realized that I was in danger. Pump your empathy, make sure you're protected. Well, the only thing you really have to do is just make sure that you keep your sweeping wind stacks up, so you don't have any problem. But you can see, you know, you just bomb from a distance. You stay out of danger. You can take out most things really, really quickly. I find it's really good for speeds if I'm doing it just solo. But like I said, I've carried people through things. I was actually just helping out some clan members last night, and I had absolutely no problem whatsoever. It's actually the first time in a while I've actually died playing this build, so There's also another variable of this build, the Legacy of Nightmare build for this. It's actually pretty good and it's pretty powerful. My only concern is, of course, it's very, very gear dependent. So you're going to have to really struggle to get a lot of the pieces, especially the rings. And if we start out with the Son Wuku set, which we do at the beginning of every season, we start out with one of the sets. So it actually changes each time around. So it's really nice when we actually, as a monk player, we actually start out with the Son Wuku set to actually play this along. All right, let's bring up this Rift Guardian. And Rift Guardian is pretty simple. Depending on who you get, always pop your empathy just to make sure you stay safe. You can dash around depending on who you're actually combating. Make sure your sweeping wind stays up. Dash again. And there he is, 60 down. So like I said, it's a very, very simplistic build. It's really good for once you get a decent Paragon level to really bomb through a lot of different things. And it's, like I said, very, very simplistic to play. Though it is gear dependent in a lot of cases, like weapons and stuff like that, you can still make do, especially at the very beginning. Okay, now obviously my Paragon has a difference. I'm at 728 right now, but I just blew through that at 5 minutes and 20 seconds, right? So it's really, really quick. All right, I didn't want to make this video very long. There's the build. There's all the pieces. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys have any comments, stuff, just leave them below, and I'll take care of them as fast as I see them. All right. Thank you very much.